It's your girl, Professor Cinephile, and this one might be a long one, so buckle up and get comfortable. I am going to be discussing One Battle After Another, a rather popular film that people keep talking about, and it's a very serious awards contender. Everybody's talking about best film of the year. That's impossible. Sinners exist. But it's a film that a lot of people think will probably win best director, best screenplay, best overall film, whatever. People are predicting that there are going to be a lot of awards that come out of this film and actor awards, all of that. And let's get into it. Spoiler alert, you guys know I will be talking about details in this film. If you have not yet seen it, then you may want to come back when you have if you don't want the film to be ruined, okay? So first I want to issue a notice, and I hate that I have to do this, right? I want to issue a notice to all the white film bros who think you're smarter than everyone and you think that people who don't like this film are somehow not getting it. Okay, if you're new to my channel, it's important to let you know that I am a doctor of philosophy who wrote her dissertation on the depictions of Black mothers in cinema. So if anyone is actually the expert here, it's me, and I just kind of want you to sit with that. And I know some of you will be put off by me giving my credentials in this way, but I think it's important context for how I'm going to discuss this film because that is primarily what I'm going to focus on. For all the film studies folks, I developed the foundation for Afrocentric film theory, and I have a methodology that I use called the Taylor test, in which it's a tool that can be used, a rubric that can be used um, to basically assess the depiction of a Black mother in a film, right? So not just after the film is made, but creators can also use it when they are writing their scripts and developing these characters because it's important, right? And I'm giving you all of this. Again, you need the context, but it's really important to understand that within cinema, the Black mother is one of the most poorly depicted characters across the cinematic landscape, right? Um, the Black mother functions so much differently than any other character, right? We have to consider race and culture and gender and all of those things. But the Black mother, in terms of the relationship to the protagonist and whether or not she's there and all those kinds of things, I mean, I've discussed this in my dissertation. You can go read it and find it. But it's really important to think of the importance of such a character, right? Okay, context aside. Let's give a brief synopsis. One battle after another follows a story primarily of a white male revolutionary who he's a ne'er-do-well, like he's a stoner, he messes up a lot of things, but he's all like Viva la Revolution. He's like really committed to it. Um, and then he's got this gang of folks they call the French 75. They are supposed to lead this revolution against fascism, but what have you. It's a mixed group of people, white, black, there's all kind of stuff going on in there. And then there is a woman who is a part of this, and she has a sexual relationship with him. It is not a romantic relationship. Just want to make that clear. There's nothing romantic about their relationship. It's actually rather pornographic, but whatever. They have a sexual relationship. She ends up getting pregnant, having a baby. Not sure which of the white men that she has been having sex with is the father, but we're going to assume that it's the main character, our beleaguered protagonist, right? Um, she basically flips on them and they go into hiding, him and the baby go into hiding. And 16 years later, after they caught some of them, 16 years later, the group has kind of simultaneously dispersed and spread. And it's really interesting to see. But anyway, this you got the 16-year-old mixed race teenager who is just basically trying to live her life, figure out life, and then they come for them, and it's a whole thing, right? Um, yeah. Okay. So let's discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly. just want to make it clear, I've actually watched this film 5 times over 2 days. Because I don't believe that you can watch a film like this one time and actually give meaningful commentary. And I know that a lot of people have done that. People have even tried to give commentary based on like clips and things like that. I think that's irresponsible. And then when it comes to films that have Black mothers in them, I pay close attention. This is really what I did. I just wrote a really excellent piece about the mothers and sinners. Like this is what my work is, right? So let's start with the good. After 5 watches, first time I was like, there is no good here. Second time, there's no good here. Third time, there's still no good here. Fourth time, I was like, okay, I kind of, that made me chuckle. Okay, I get it. Fifth time, I was like, I see what you were trying to do, and I can appreciate the moments when, Anderson actually gets it. I can appreciate those. Those moments are few and far between. And actually, I think there's some times that I enjoyed things that perhaps other people didn't pick up on or didn't find, whatever. All right, so the good is that it's supposed to be satire, they say. I think that when we're talking about satire, there has to be a shared cultural understanding to get the joke, right? To be in on the joke. And unfortunately, what some of the film bros tend to do, it's like, well, if you didn't get it, you're not smart enough, and all those kinds of things. And actually, the truth is that if you're going to do satire well, if you actually do it well, you have to be able to convey it to the majority of people. If most people are not in on your joke, then it's not good. If most people are not in on your satire, then it doesn't good. Take a publication like The Onion or something like that. They're really good at satire. Um, so I think that that's where a big part of where this film struggled, because it's not clear to a lot of people that this is satire when people are kind of caught up in some of the really egregious things that are going on in this film. Now, here's the thing. I am a Black woman. I am a Black mother. And more importantly, I'm an Afrocentric film scholar who cares very much about the power of film to craft narratives, of our people. And I'm speaking right now specifically to African Americans, but this goes across the diaspora, right? For African Americans, a people who have some of the worst literacy rates, right? Out in terms of so-called native English speakers. When we're talking about like maybe 15 to 17% of African Americans can actually read beyond an eighth grade level, right? These are important things to consider when we talk about the power of film. The moving image comes from Africa, right? And this idea of narrative storytelling originates with our people. So this is how we connect. We connect through this oral history telling, this oral tradition, and through this moving image. So if we want to tell our stories and we want to get them to people so that they can kind of understand them, it's not going to be in a book, unfortunately, right? It's going to be in film, it's going to be in television, it's going to be music videos, it's going to be those kinds of things. So for me, I want to see how we are able to have these complicated characters and how we're able to portray them in ways that make sense for Black people. White people can't do that for us, right? And I know that you're watching this and you're like, oh, here she goes with the race shit. And yeah, no, actually, it is. I am coming with the race shit. And having gone to film conferences, one thing is true. Many of you film scholars, the race shit don't matter to you. And it has to. When we're talking about narratives, it has to. And so Anderson, unfortunately, is attempting satire. I don't know who he was consulting on this film, but he doesn't get it right. There's a fine line between satire and then abuse. And he crossed that line many times. And that's why so many people are upset. Now, I wasn't going to go see the film, but I definitely wasn't going to go see it. I mean, I can see 4 films a week at AMC, and I still wasn't trying to go see that shit because I had already heard Black women that I respect come out of that film talking about how vile it was, how disgusted they were, how they left after 20 minutes. And I was like, oh, well, I don't need to see it because I trust Black women, right? But, it's streaming, and so I was like, all right, I'll watch it. So after 5 times watching it, I think that there were moments that were so absurd that it's hard not to laugh at them. As pissed off as I can be about some parts, I was like, all right, I see where you're going with this, right? Like the whole that whole scene where all the white men are kind of sitting around the office table and they're talking about Sean Penn's character and whether or not whether he had a black baby. You want to listen, if there's any scene that I have watched multiple times, it was that one. And that, like, I can say that is like hilarious. It is hilarious. But to me, it's not hilarious in like a bearded white lefty dude bro kind of way. It's hilarious in this is the absurdity of whiteness, right? Which again, I think that that is what Anderson was trying to do in this film. I think like you have to ask, well, what is the point of this film, right? And a lot of times I've found white filmmakers like him, right? And I'm thinking of a Quentin Tarantino, I'm thinking of some others who have these kinds of really gratuitous films. And you're like, okay, so what was the point? Like, what were you trying to say with this? What was the goal? Like, were you trying to spark a conversation? You trying to spark debate? Like, what were you trying to do here? What cultural statement are you making? And so I can see someone watching this film once and being like, what the hell is the point of this, right? I can see you watching it two or three times and still having that same thought. But after the fifth watch, I was like, the frustration that I had was like, God, I know what he's trying to do. I know what he's trying to do. And you know what? If he had brought me on as a consultant, I might have been able to help him, not just with the Black mother thing, but also with the kink thing, right? Because there's this whole kink thread that was not fleshed out the way that it could have been. Like it was thrown in there, right? And so I'm calling this a spaghetti western. It has all of the markers of a spaghetti western. And for those of you that are were really annoyed by the score, like the music being so loud, that is a signature of spaghetti westerns, this overly dramatic music that is just there. And but also kind of thinking like the whole idea of spaghetti, you just throw it against the wall and see what sticks. I think the plot line of Sean Penn's character being, you know, this kind of race play kinkster sub type guy was just kind of thrown there, right? Now, if we want to sit and analyze and we want to talk about it, then sure, we could say, okay, well, this is kind of, you know, talking to the inherently submissive nature of white maleness, right? And how this black woman is the queen of everything. Like, I do think, let's make this clear. I know I'm all over the place, but let's think about this. I'm not doing this off a script. I'm doing this off the dome. I do think that Anderson believes that the black woman is the key figure of the revolution. I believe that that's what he knows to be true, which is why I was troubled that he decided to take the turn that he did. And he took the turn that he did because he doesn't understand black mothers, right? Now, some people will say, oh, well, you know, he's married to Maya Rudolph. Maya Rudolph was raised by a white man. Yes, her mother is black, but she was not raised by her mama. She was raised by a white man. She was acculturated into whiteness, right? So while, yes, she can be like, I'm proud that I'm black. Like, you were raised to be white. And so you're marrying this woman and having kids with this woman, and you've got a bunch of quadroons. I ain't supposed to say that, but it's the truth. So you are not an authority to talk about the lived experiences of Black mothers, right? So anyway, I think he understands fundamentally, you know, especially if he's on social media for the last 10 years or so, it's very much been like, listen to Black women. Black women have been leading these resistance. Black women, you know, were leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement, even in Ferguson and all these different kinds of uprisings that were taking place in the last decade or so. They were started by Black women. So you fundamentally understand that. But also you understand that the Black woman, first of all, she's the origin of humanity, right? So if any revolution is going to happen, it's going to go through her. Anna Julia Cooper says, where and when I enter, the whole Negro race comes with me. And that's, I mean, that can be spread to society. It's like when and where the Black woman enters, all of humanity enters, right? Because if a Black woman is allowed to walk through that door, then that means all of the locks that were on that door had to have been removed in order for her to come through. So I think that he does have a fundamental understanding of that. However, he decided to bastardize it and twist it up in an unnecessary way. And if I have a word for this film, it is unnecessary. Okay? So let's look at the characters. Again, I told y'all this is gonna be long. It's gonna be long. It's gonna have to be long. Because people have been asking me for this. I've written some of my thoughts online already, but here we go. Sometimes people like to hear my voice when I'm talking about it. All right. So what is this film about? Um, this film, one of the things I said I wrote online is that Anderson treats blackness like a race and not a culture. And that is something that white people tend to do, right? Because white people are the ones who created race. The white man is the one who created this idea of race as a tool of othering people, right? As a tool to assert dominance, right? It's not that whiteness is, supreme or higher above anybody. It is that white men are willing to rob, kill, torture, rape, pillage in order to maintain the illusion of white supremacy, right? So you think about that, they don't necessarily honor the culture of blackness, right? And people can say, well, what kind of culture is blackness? And black people are not a monolith. Yes, we are. We absolutely are. Black culture is pretty consistent across the diaspora and has been for thousands of years. Um, aside from these little white, and I like to go snowboarding. Okay, well, you like to do some white ass shit. Snowboarding is white. You like to do it. That doesn't make snowboarding black. It doesn't make you any less black. You just like doing white shit. Like that's what it is. So we are pretty much like culturally aligned, and a lot of people will say no, but that's because you don't understand what culture is. We have the same music, same food, same languages. Like it's all the same, right? So you have to have a fundamental understanding of that to be able to write black characters. Even when they're complicated, even when they're messed up, even when it's satire, you have to have a basic fundamental understanding that blackness is a culture. It's a cultural thing. It's not just about race. And this film treats blackness as race. And so that's where it's already off, you know? And so that's how a white that's how white men and how a white creator is able to have the things happen that would not happen culturally among black people. What's an example of that, you ask? Well, a black woman is not leaving her child with a white man to abandon and turn on them for a fucking revolution. That is never going to happen. You've never seen that in any literary tradition. It is not going to happen. Why? Because that's not what we do. So, but you don't know that if you ain't a black mama. But the thing is, everything that you know about black mothers is through media, and black mother is the most vilified character in literature and film. So, I mean, even more vilified than a fucking child rapist, right? So, oh, I'm sorry, I'm cursing. But no, the black mother is the most vilified, right? So, when you're coming from black as a race and not black as a culture, then you would write some dumb shit like that, right? But if you were to consult me, I would tell you, that's not gonna happen. First of all, a black woman coming from a long line of tradition of revolutionaries. First of all, she's not fucking these white men unprotected unless there's a lot of money involved. Second of all, not no revolutionary movement or framework. Like, Anderson, are you dumb? Like, none of that is realistic, but I have to go back to him being satirical. I have to assume. I have to give him the grace to assume that he knows that. And that's why he did it, because he knows this is impossible. He knows this bullshit would never happen, right? He knows that no revolutionary black woman who is comes from a line of revolutionary black women is going to willingly abandon her baby, her girl child, with a man who represents the people who rape children the most, family annihilators, school shooters, centuries of systematic rape of black women and men over time. You're not leaving your girl child with a man who descends from people who purchased your ancestors for the purposes of rape. That's not going to happen. It's the most unrealistic thing. So maybe he was taking that, knowing that that shit could never happen, and putting it in as part of his satirical, like, this is absurd. This is like, and again, absurdity is important here, right? But then he's bringing in monstrosity. And that's when I start getting particular, because he is making, so Teyana Taylor plays Perfidia Beverly Hills. The name Perfidia means betrayer of man, right? It means betrayer, dishonest, disloyal, all those kinds of things. and you're watching these films, you have to pay attention to the naming. Someone like Anderson is crafty enough like that. I'm a student of Spike Lee. The first thing I do is look up the meanings of these names, right? So she already is pegged as that, right? So the only time you see her swollen with pregnancy, right? The main time you see her is this shot where she's firing off an automatic rifle, right? Already paints Black motherhood as violent. I mean, just immediately, Black motherhood is violent. And this woman, this Black woman, should not have rights and privileges to raising her own child, to being a mother, because Black motherhood is inherently violent, right? That's the statement being made there. And I get if you're going to rationalize it all you want, but that is the statement being made there. And that is an artistic choice. Like, why did you do that? Yes, I know that you need her to betray everyone, but why did it have to be her? Why wasn't it the Black man played by Wood Harris? Why wasn't he the betrayer? He's kissing up on white woman and all that stuff. Why didn't you make him the betrayer? Because you know that he's meaningless in the revolution, right? Because we all know historically that while Black men are propped up as the leaders and the vocal people and the only ones who are given space, we know modern times they're not showing up for nothing unless they're gay. Right? So he's worthless. He's a useless character there. You know, Wood Harris, great actor, love him, but he's worthless. He has no meaning in this film. So of course he can't be the one to betray, right? No, it actually has to be the mother of humanity. It has to be, you know, the woman who is probably the most vital person to any kind of revolution and resistance against American fascism, right? Global fascism, even. So you see, you have this image of her swollen with pregnancy, and she's firing off this gun. It's already Black mom is violent. Black motherhood is violent. Black mother does not deserve to enjoy the vocation of motherhood because she is violent. This is centuries old rhetoric, by the way. Okay. Angela Davis talks about Black women not being allowed to enjoy the vocation of motherhood and even being pushed to hating motherhood, right? Because of the experiences they have navigating a racist society. Dr. Nadev talks about how Black mothers are forced to raise children and experience motherhood in a hostile environment, right? And so I think that there was something in there that made me think of that as well. The way that they're living on the run and doing all these kinds of violent things, it is a hostile environment, right? How does this Black mother navigate that? You should have asked somebody who's a Black mother to come in and help you figure that out, right? You didn't, because you didn't want to, because you still have to do the race play kink line, and you still have to make her someone who could dominate a weaker white man. And so Anderson is definitely presenting the white man as weak. I mean, every level, every single white man in this film is weak as fuck, right? And I remember posting something and I was like, unless you see yourself in these characters, I don't understand how you like this. And one man was like, well, yeah, I do see myself in Bob. And I was like, yeah, and that's who this film is for. This film was made for you losers. This film was made for you men who talk online about revolution, but you don't even own a gun. You don't know how to hold one. You don't know how to shoot one. You're not about anything. Ain't no revolution about to happen. You still gonna go to your same boring ass job every day. If you even have some pussy in your life, you'll try to get it. There's a good chance you don't. You spend your time online being a leftist and all this nonsense, but you ain't really about that life. And so that is what I think Anderson was trying to point out. And it's so ironic to me that all these like kind of lefty bearded white bros love this film so much. I'm like, you know, he's talking shit about you. You know, he's calling you weak. You know that he's calling you all pathetic. Do you know that he is letting you know that you have no chance of pulling off a real resistance because you can't get over yourselves, yet you all get in your own way? So what do you love about this? You're Sean Penn's character. You like that kind of flagellation. You like that humiliation. You like being reminded of that. You get off on it, which is why you enjoy this film. Because you're perverts. There's a perversion here, right? This is ridiculously pornographic in ways that it doesn't necessarily be. Like I didn't sign up for this. I'm all about consent, you know? Um, so you have Perfidia, right? So she's cool. Then you have Jungle Pussy, which a lot of you are not smart enough to know that Jungle Pussy already had her name. She's a rapper. The role was written for her after Anderson saw her performing, um, one time, and he actually wrote her into the film. He was so taken by her that he wrote her into the film. You didn't know that that happened, but again, even that story, the commodification of Black women's creations. Like you're out here doing your thing, and I'm saying that I want to amplify you, but then I'm going to put you in this role that degrades you, and I'm going to make you feel proud to be in it. I'm telling you that you get to star alongside Leo DiCaprio and Benicio del Toro and all these great, and Sean Penn, all these great people. Sean Penn never met a face he wouldn't want to bash in, but that's okay. You get to be alongside him. This is going to be good for your career. I need you to come and play this degenerate Black woman. And I want you to use that name because I know you like that name, but my audience ain't going to get it. They're not going to see the subversion in you calling yourself Jungle Pussy. They're going to think I came up with that because I'm the smart white guy. And they're going to think that I did this as part of the plot. And I'm going to let you stand here on this countertop and give this monologue that sounds very much the opposite of the monologue in Mad Heart by Amiri Baraka, a one-act play that actually flips this whole thing. And I don't know if I can believe that Anderson actually reads Baraka, but if he does, and if that is a connection there, then I actually give him that, right? Okay, cool. So then we get to Deandra. Um, Deandra's name means loyal, means kind of the savior of men. It means that she's well black and loyal and all these kinds of things, really positive things. That she is played by Regina Hall. She is the most important character in this film. You probably don't notice that because Anderson keeps her in the shadows all the time. It's like one scene where she's actually well lit, or she's not in a mirror, or and that this is all intentional. This is a filmmaker, right? These are all intentional choices. You keep the most important character. You keep the person who is the personification of, listen to black women, we're not going to save you kind of thing. She's a personification of that. She actually is the true revolutionary in the story, right? And she functions as this other mother. It's a whole theoretical framework. Go look it up, what an other mother is, um, who is so essential to African communities. Um, she's the auntie, right? She's the one who functions in this maternal capacity, regardless of whether the mother is there or not, right? And so in this role, it's so important because and then no, let's not get into the messianic bullshit of Willa's character, right? Because I hate when films get messianic and excuse me. I hate when films get messianic and um I hate it because I'm an atheist and I just think it's ridiculous. But Deandra becomes a caretaker of, baby Jesus Willa and functions as an other mother, which is actually a very real role within Black communities. She's got a focused mind, she is tactical, she understands the goals, she understands the point of the revolution. She would never betray the revolution, right? She's the key to everyone getting to that place, that promised land, that place that you're supposed to go. And Anderson keeps her in the shadows so that you don't notice her. And why would you not want people to notice her? Because she poses an existential threat to white male dominance in this space. You see, the reason why these lefty bros love Bernie Sanders, even though Bernie Sanders is the opposite of what a revolution needs, he's a wealthy white man. Like, get the fuck out of my face. But the reason they love him is because he is a white man. They need one of their own so they can feel like they can save everybody else. But Deandra is the true savior here. She's the one that helps them get away. She's the one that goes and rescues Willa. She's the one that is just there, kind of is this anchor figure in this entire film. And that makes her completely out of place in the absurdity of this film, right? Okay. Then you have Willa. Willa is the child. She's the product of Perfidia and Bob, whatever. And originally her name is Charlene, but they changed her name to Willa, and that makes me think of Willa Cather, right? That's the first person I think of when I hear the name Willa. And so Willa Cather, if you don't know, she is this like wildly respected Americana author. She wrote a lot about the Wild West, Oh Pioneers, that kind of thing. But also, she writes really strong female characters, young ones, right? And so you have to assume that Anderson was paying homage to the stories and the narratives that Willa Cather crafted in her stories, and the strong, young, fierce, I can take on the world kind of character. And that's exactly kind of what Willa, represents, having been born to these revolutionary parents. The idea of it being biracial, I mean, we've heard this before. There's so many of you fools who just think that miscegenation is going to lead to, get rid of all the problems that we have. It's going to create a colorblind society. I mean, that shit is never going to happen because even amongst those who are the result of miscegenation, there's different levels of different colors. There's all these kinds of things. There's different hair textures, class. All these things are still, white people will always find a way to other each other, whether you got mix of some nigger in you or not. They're gonna find a way to other each other, right? So she's supposed to represent what the future could be, right? This blending white and black people coming together in one person and all those kinds of things, right? Yeah. And it couldn't be a black man and a white woman, given the tendency of black men to get with white women because they hate white men and they see it as revenge, or they hate their black mothers for making them black. So they get white women to make sure that their children can be lighter and not have to navigate the world facing all the things they had to do with their black ass skin, right? We want to keep it real here, right? So that would never, that narrative can't fit because there's a good chance he's a sellout, right? It has to be a black woman with a white man. But here's the thing, it doesn't. We actually don't need white people at all in the resistance. We don't need them participating in that. Not in the ways that they did. The best contribution a white person can make to this resistance is money. And Bob ain't got no money. He ain't got no money except to smoke and get high all the time, right? That's what he's got money for that. But he lives, come on, he's ridiculous, right? Whatever. It has to be the black woman. But it can't be a pure black woman. Pure, right? She has to be made better by whiteness. And she has to be made better by white paternity. And so her mother has to disappear in order for the story to continue, right? Not only just disappear, has to abandon her so that she can grow up in the ways of whiteness, of white resistance. Because at some point she's going to reach an age where she realizes that these white men ain't about shit if her mother stays around. But they make sure that they know that she knows her mother's a rat. First, they hold on and they're like, yeah, she was a good person. They've lied to her, whatever. But then they eventually tell her the truth. Why? There was no need to tell them that. They had to upset her. They had to agitate her. They had to create the conflict and the drama. They had to give her a reason for the rest of the film to go the way that it goes, right? She had to be betrayed by her mother, which you all love that, right? Because if a black woman has a loving relationship with her child, then she can't perform labor for you. She can't be your race play mistress. She can't be your revolutionary token or your weapon. She can't be somebody who's going to put her life on the line to rob a bank. Not if she loves her child and is focused on being a good mother. So you can't have that in a film like this, right? If I believed Anderson was smart enough to do what I'm talking about, then I'd say this is an excellent film. I don't. And that's where I settle on in this film. I don't think he's smart enough to incorporate Amiri Baraka and Mad Heart into this. I don't think I think he's smart enough to name the character Willa. He's decent with naming. Um, but I don't think that he's smart enough to see blackness as culture versus blackness as race. And I think his white maleness gets in the way of that, right? The kink shit didn't need to be there at all. Sean Penn's character actually, that entire storyline, it's there for absurdity, it's there for monstrosity. I get it. It's the funniest part to me of the whole thing, but also the most vile and the most pornographic, gratuitously pornographic. Another way to debase the black woman on screen, satire or not, there's choices to be made. And Anderson chose to debase black women any opportunity he could get outside of Deandra, who he kept in the shadows. There's a section in the film where we get Benicio del Toro coming in. I think that's where we get reprieve from the ridiculousness and the absurdity, right? That's when it actually seems like a pretty linear film. So that's cool. I'll give it, he has some decent shots. So there's some decent sequences in here, but I do feel, and other people agreed with me, that there was a lot of clumsiness there. Now we could argue that the clumsiness is representing the reluctant protagonist and how he clumsily, excuse me, makes his way throughout life. Okay, so it get the cinematography directing was a little bit clumsy, little bit of a klutz kind of thing going on. He does a lot of work with lights and shadows and really when you're watching it, pay attention. That's why I tell everybody if you're gonna go watch it again, please watch Deandra's character and actually try to experience the film as though she is the protagonist of this film. You'll watch the film completely differently, right? Um, but then there were some shots that were absolutely unnecessary. You have a 16-year-old sitting there, arms bound, legs spread, eagle like pretty much spread in almost a submissive, sexually submissive positioning. And then you have this old, dusty white man who may very well be her father or stepfather, whatever situation is, coming and towering over her. First of all, this whole film was stepdaughter porn. It was really like gross. White men, y'all are nasty. Come on. It was like stepdaughter porn. But that particular scene actually made me sick to my stomach. I actually skip it now. I watched it enough to give commentary, but now my fourth and fifth watch, I sped through it because of how vile it is. The character is 16 years old. Why is there sexual tension between her and this man that is supposed to be her father? Like, are y'all kidding me right now? Anyway, um, this idea that he was reverse raped. Yeah, I know it's absurd, it's ludicrous, but you can't be that careless with black women who are already vilified in media. There's going to be people who are going to see this as real or see this as a realistic depiction of black motherhood. They're not going to be able to parse through these things. So there's a certain level of responsibility you have to have because we are not actually at the point where you can take those kinds of liberties, particularly as a white male filmmaker. I recommend that people, if you love Tiana Taylor in this, if this is the first time you saw her, I mean, now listen, these people were acting their asses off. Every last one of them was giving them A+ performances. Absolutely. I just hate that the roles were what they were. I hate that the story itself was what it was, right? Essentially that, that the key to liberation is black and white people literally coming together. But if you want to see a actually decent depiction of a complicated Black mother, um, please watch 1001, written and directed by a Black woman, and see how Black motherhood, complicated Black motherhood, is treated in that film. It is Tiana Taylor's best performance to date, and if you want to revisit that, then go see that. And then you'll realize why people like me are so upset with one battle after another. Now, I let go of some of the anger because I actually don't give a fuck anymore. But it's really important to think about why these films get made from an Afrocentric film theorist perspective. You have to consider how does the filmmaker, what do they think about Black people? How do they feel about Black people? And can we trust their depictions of Black people? Like, what do we know? Most we know that he's married to, Maya Rudolph. And okay. Um, you have to think about what do they understand about Black culture? This film does not represent or reflect that Anderson has any understanding of Black culture. But yet people keep talking about being Black, right? Like over and over gratuitously. I'm a Black girl. Also, a grown ass woman being called a Black girl and calling herself a Black girl. Okay. Don't ever do that shit again, right? That is not it. That is a long colonizing history of infantilizing adult Black people by calling them boy and calling them girl. We call each other girl as part of our cultural exchanges and within community. That was not community. That was not a cultural community. So there's no reason for this black girl, white boy, all this shit. Mm. And then him being ghetto Pat, like okay, I get it. It's absurd, but also fuck you. Like this is how a lot of y'all see us. And so there was a lot of irresponsible things that happened in this film that just, I'm not going to allow myself to get agitated. Anyway, this is long. I told you it was going to be long. Um, there's a lot of things in this film that like I I get I get what he was trying to do. And that's why I even bothered to make this, because if I could completely throw this away and disregard it, then I would have, because I'm used to white people making terrible films about Black mothers and Black women. But I do know what he was trying to do. I just don't think he did it. I think there's a couple of points where that shine better than others that were like, yeah, okay, maybe I get it. But not, no, most of them, no, you didn't do it. You could have done it, but you didn't do it. So people are going to propel this film. They're going to talk this film up. They are going to enjoy the pornographic nature of this film. They're going to enjoy the debasement of Black women in this film. They are going to love this idea, even though they say, oh, he's not a white savior. That's the whole point. No, actually, this is a white savior film, but it's not whiteness. You don't like being white. So it's it's biracial. It's miscegenation because you guys don't like being white. You guys are tired of white men being penalized and talked shit about. You're tired of feeling as white men that you're responsible for everything that's wrong in the world, although you are. You as white men, you need a win. And this film is a win for a lot of you all who are just tired of being lumped in as the big bad white guy. So I'm going to give this film 1 star, and I'm going to give it one heart, sorry. And I'm going to give it 1 heart because I support Teyana Taylor and Regina Hall in their careers. Yeah, that's all I got. Anyway, subscribe to my channel. My things are not usually this long. Um, hopefully you made it to this end. 2026. Oh, I should say Happy New Year, everybody. 2026, I'm definitely going to be digging more into this. I'm going to be pulling off of social media because it's getting on my nerves and I'm tired of being around stupid people. So you're going to see more from me. If this is your first time here, go through and check some of my other reviews. You can check film. I reviewed films like Weapons, which was not a good film. I reviewed him, these kinds of films. And I want you to think about I'm not just the typical reviewer. I am going to give you cultural grounding. I am going to give you some insight, maybe even some history lessons, things like that. So if you like me, cool, subscribe, and talk to you soon.